Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to our Running for Life webinar this evening. I am Sheranda Smith, also known as Coach Sheranda. I am excited to be here with you today. Tonight's webinar is part of a series of webinars I've organized, and I am presenting for Trailblazers Health and Wealth, which is a health and wellness company that I founded and which I am CEO of. As a part of Trailblazers Health and Wealth, I support overwhelmed women on their path to living a whole and healthy life. I am a transformational leader. I am a certified health coach. I am a motivational speaker. I am a community organizer, and I am a writer and media contributor. For the last 5 years, I've been growing my health coaching network that empowers hundreds to support them in adopting healthy habits, healthy lifestyle, focus on weight loss and management, nutrition and hydration, movement, sleep, emotional management, and healthy environments. I am also a fitness and outdoor enthusiast. I have run full and half marathons, as well as organized community fitness events that includes walks, runs, hikes, and boot camps. I also design and execute signature seminars, workshops, and speeches on the topics of health, wealth, women, family, human potential, and community organization. And most importantly, for this present moment, I'm going to be I'm one of the organizers of this seminar and one of your co-hosts for this webinar, and I'm delighted to be with you tonight. I know you could have done a lot of things with your time, so we're glad that you've chosen to be with us today. I am going to introduce my co-host, a very dynamic and phenomenal woman that I met through my health coaching practice, Coach Lorraine Green. I asked her to co-host this event with me, Running for Life, because of her athletic abilities and her coaching skills. I am going to ask Lorraine to come on and tell us a little bit about herself, her background, and her athletic quest.
It's my pleasure to be here. I don't know if you can see me, Sheranda, you might. There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm a 43-year teacher. I've coached 8 different sports. I was always an athlete in high school, college, and beyond. 3-sport athlete in college, all the sports I could play in high school. I got into triathlon, which is my big thing right now, because I had been injured. And my surgeon who repaired my knee said, you need to get on a bike. So I got on that bike and met up with other guys, and they're the ones that talked me to triathlon. Currently, I am on the United States. Here, I got to show you my thing. I'm on the US team age group, and I'm 71 years old for 2 more days. And I got into triathlon again because I really wanted to continue in my competitions. I have run 15 marathons, and I have a sub 40 10K, but because of the body just tells you what the body's going to do. I am now doing triathlon, and I love it. Right now I'm doing what's called a sprint triathlon. I've done the other distances. A sprint is basically half a mile in the open water, 20K, just over 12 miles on the bike, followed by a 5K run. So that's what I do now. And my big races for this season are nationals in a mere 3 weeks in Omaha, Nebraska, and worlds in October in Malaga, Spain. So I'm going to invite Sheranda to come back because I have a couple questions for her. Sheranda, do you want to share my screen with me? Sheranda and I met probably at a conference for our company, and then she graced me with her presence up at my summer cabin, and we really got to be close. Found out we both like to run, and so we ran while we were at a conference, and then we kind of did some of that up at altitude in Estes Park as well. Sheranda, would you like to tell me a little bit about your athletic quest and how you got into marathoning and half marathoning?
Okay, Thanks, Lorraine. I love the Team USA, and because Lorraine had her Team USA, I felt like I had to bring some of my medals out. That's part of why running is fun too. Like running is fun. It's fun for me. So I got into running. I really loved running as a child. I grew up in rural Virginia and we just played outdoors all the time. We were outdoors like all the time. We did everything outdoors and running was just a part of it. Then as I became a teenager, I did cross country. So that's when I started to get into distances. I lived in the Piedmont region of Virginia, so it was hilly. It wasn't we had some mountains, but not like Colorado, but that kind of just got me into running outdoors and it got me training to do running. And then as I became an adult, it was just kind of my go-to. Running was my go-to fitness activity because all I needed were a pair of tennis shoes. And I could be in a safe place to be, in a safe place to run. And you could run anywhere. I could be in an urban environment where I went to college, or I could be in a rural community, or I could be in the suburbs. It really, like, I was in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, I ran there. Like, I could just, all I needed was shoes. And so it was just easy for me to run. And then, I got into my 30s and I was a busy full-time career woman with two children. And life was just, I was pretty much overwhelmed by juggling a very demanding job and raising two children. And over a course of like a decade, I gained a lot of weight. So I gained like 80 pounds, and it really inhibited my ability to run because that's a lot of weight to carry, and I couldn't run anymore. I would try to do little 5Ks and different things like that, but it was really challenging. And I remember even trying to do some 5Ks while I was my heaviest. And I was like, one race I did, I was like the last person. I was the last person, and I probably was in my early 40s. And I didn't feel that great about finishing the race because I was like the last person. But I was still trying, I was still trying. But at the age of 44, I was pre-diabetic. I was what my doctors classified as morbidly obese. Such a bad, like awful term to use, right? I think they kind of use a better term now, like class 3 obesity. Um, the obesity was starting to affect my health. I even tried to ride a bicycle one summer. It was like right around my birthday. I got on a bicycle for my birthday, and I had a really bad accident on my bicycle because of my weight. I couldn't really balance, and I fell off my bike, and I tore a meniscus. They thought my ACL was also torn, but I had to go to emergency room and I could not walk the rest of the summer. Like I started walking toward the end of the summer after having a surgery, physical therapy and some surgery. But I was in a wheelchair. It was like I couldn't even go up and down stairs. So I was like, at the age of 44. So like that was my condition in my early 40s. And then I met found out about the health program through a friend of mine. I embraced this health program by Optavia, which was founded by Dr. Wayne Anderson, who was one of the first board certified doctors in the United States in critical care. And he developed a lifestyle program to fight chronic illnesses. So I decided to fight my chronic illness of obesity, which obesity is classified as a chronic illness. And I decided to make some lifestyle changes. And first starting with my nutrition. But as I started to lose weight and I started to feel better and gain more energy and gain more confidence and let out some of that pressure from my knees, I started running again. So after losing the 80 pounds, I got more into running, and I used the running to replace the bad habits. So the drinking, I was drinking too much, socializing with the drinking a lot, cutting that down. So instead of doing the drinking, I started running, or overeating. I would run. And then I also went through a divorce, and that was very challenging. But there are lots of ways that you can react to situations like that. So for me, I decided to use running as the way that I would cope. So I decided to do a marathon. And so that was my first marathon, and I trained for my marathon. My marathon helped me to cope with going through my divorce. So I got back into running, and then running also was I had become a health coach. So running was also shaping my identity as a health coach. And I was in this very healthy community. And so then I just kept running. Um, after I have only done one marathon, I just signed up for my second, which I'll do in November. But in between time, I've been doing half marathons. So I've been doing 2 half marathons a year. So I think I've done like 5 half marathons. I've done a 10 miler. I've done all these great races that I've always wanted to do. And it's just like I love it. And I meet people through a running community, and I run early mornings, I run evenings, and it's just a way, like really running has saved my life. So that's a little bit how I got into running.
Sheranda, that is a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing. I did not know you ran cross country in high school. That's wonderful. I've coached cross country for many years, and it's my favorite sport to coach. Um, would you tell us, in case we don't all know, what is the distance of a marathon?
26.2 miles.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a wonderful race. I'm so fortunate I was also able to do some marathons. Your story is very inspiring, and I thank you for sharing it. We want to kind of have an idea of where you're at in the audience. If you consider yourself a beginning runner or want to get into running, would you just put a 1 in the chat for us, please? And if you are already a runner, but might want to just pick up some good tips, go ahead and put a 2. And if you're, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to run ever, that's okay, because you can always walk. Put in a 3. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to kind of take you through the phases that we go through as athletes when we run or do triathlon or cycling or whatever. And that's the warm up, the body of the workout, and the cool down. And so I am going to, we've practiced this, by gosh, by golly, but I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you some active stretches. And what an active stretch is you're moving while you stretch. It's not static where you're sitting on your bottom and doing like a hurdle stretch or anything. An active stretch is where you're moving while you're running. And this has been kind of the trend of all of us coaches in middle school, high school, and college. You'll see the kids running and doing these active stretches. So I've picked a couple for you. I didn't pick them all because, you know, I don't know where your ability is, and I don't want to have you doing something that might be really frustrating and detrimental to your physical health. So I'm going to share my screen now. I've got a couple drills here that I actually, there they are, that I actually did before. There, okay. These are some of the drills that I do. The first drill is called high knee skip. And high knee skip is, you all probably have skipped when you were kids, but a high knee skip is you don't cover a lot of ground when you do it. You want your knees up to the waist. You want an erect posture. You'll notice I have a little quirk on my left side because I'm having some knee issues, but it looks kind of like this. It's just you're moving along. You're not really covering a lot of distance when you do it. Your arms are swinging opposite. So the only thing I would say to this runner is, my goodness, why don't you work a little harder on that one? No, just kidding. Okay, so then that's high knee skips, and those always get my heart rate up right away. It's really how I start my active stretches. This next one is called a lean and reach. And generally I'll put a couple jog steps in between, but what I'm doing is I'm going opposite arm, opposite leg. I flex at the heel. So I'm getting some hamstring work here. And this is a great one. I love it. Okay. So that's lean and reach. I've got more fun for you. This one, oh, this is great. This is a very short one, but it's a stretch of your hip flexors. So what you're going to do, I'll explain it first. You're going to bring your knee up to your chest with good high erect posture and pull it to your chest and then switch legs. You'll see what I mean. Pull it up to the chest, pull it up. Woody, that's my, okay, I get to try again. Here we go. Up, okay. You got the idea. Evidently, that one didn't make it, but that's okay. You just do that several times, and it really does help with your hips, your hip flexors and so forth. Here's the last couple I'm going to do with you today is a leg swing. You'll see me facing a solid thing and swinging my legs that way. And you'll also see me to the side of it. This really loosens up the hips nicely. It's actually one of my favorites. So you'll watch and you'll see I'm facing the garage and I'm doing a nice, I'm being gentle because I'm having some issues, but it's all you're doing. You're holding, and I'm only doing a couple, 3. I usually do about 6 of these per leg. And then I switch, put my side to the garage and do 6 per leg. And it really does a nice job of loosening me up. I really, really, really like it. And you can see I do it on the other side. Generally, it's the inside leg. So you get both hips. You want to do both sides. The next thing is just a simple quadricep stretch. I've grabbed the opposite leg and notice my knee is directly opposite my other knee. It's straight down. I'm not trying to stretch it out or arch my back. I'm pointing that knee straight down to the ground. Are there any questions so far on those drills? If you have them, put them in the share. That's what, those are the drills I wanted to share with you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, okay? And I'm going to, again, if you have any questions about what I've done, feel free to put them in the chat because we're going to review the chat at the end of our time. Okay, guess what, Sheranda? You're going to tell us a little bit about running and what kind of running did you do to build up your marathon mileage? Go,
Can I, and
Sheranda.
I want to ask you a question really
Sure,
quickly too.
go for
Okay,
it.
because I am not the best about warming up. Okay, so this is
Mm.
the area that I need to focus on. Can you talk a little bit why it's important to warm up?
Well,
And
it is. It's important to run before you go out for your workout and do some stretching after. Now, what I showed you were active stretches where you're moving and you're getting your heart rate flowing and so forth. And then when you're done with the walk or the run or the triathlon workout, then you do what are called static stretches. You're not moving. Like I'm going to take you guys on a little journey here and show you what a static stretch looks like. Okay. If I'm doing a static stretch and I want to stretch my hamstrings, I'm going to put my legs in this formation and I'm going to reach for that and hold it. That is a static stretch. Okay. I do it on what I do on one side, I always do on the other. I reach for the toes, but my knee can be bent. That's okay. So these are static stretches. And frog stretch is a great one just to get things all evened up in the pelvic region. You probably have done static stretches on your own before. You've probably done toe touches, side bends, twists. All of those are excellent static stretches that you can do when you're done. The reason you want to do them when you're done is your body is warm. At the end of working out, it is warm. You don't want to go into these static stretches when you're cold. You want to go into them when you're warm and your body's supple. Does that answer your question, Sheranda?
perfect, thank you. So I'm going to start doing those. I'm going to start, and I'm going to start doing them before I make it and to be more intentional before I start the body of my run to allow time to do a warm up. Is there a amount of time that we should dedicate to warming up, do you think?
Basically, what I do is I do them in a sets of a particular number. Like when I'm doing the high skips, I do 20 steps.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. And then I turn around and I'll do the bringing the knee to the body and hold it. And I'll do 3 on each leg. I'll go left leg, right leg, left leg, right leg, left and right. And the same thing with the leg swings. I do them 6 leg swings on a leg. And then I switch legs, 6. And those are numbers we have just come up with our kids that have seemed to work. You'll experiment. There are some other skills and drills that I have not shared with you because They involve a little footwork, and maybe it's something I can share with you along the way. One of them is a grapevine step. One are what we call Kenyan side steps, where you're really working making the arms reach overhead while you do a side skip. I just gave you the basics that you can start with, whether you're running, walking, or cycling, or underwater basket weaving.
Okay, that is great. And then the other thing I just wanted to point out about those exercises for the audience, and Joy, I think you mentioned this, and when we did a little like promotion to tell people about this webinar. And these are things that you could just do for some stretches in your house. You could have a counter, or you could be, I'm in my office right now. So as Lorraine was doing them, I could take breaks during the day and I could do a few of these stretches just to get my body moving sometimes. And I tell you one thing, we have this concept called that we teach our clients: stop, challenge, and choose. So if you are feeling the need to eat something you're not supposed to eat, or maybe you have an emotion that's stirring you up that you want to react a way that maybe is not the best way to react, or maybe you could stop and challenge yourself by taking a pause and doing one of these stretches that Lorraine just showed you, because you don't need a lot of space to do these things either. And then, see where you are with your emotions and see if you can make a better choice. So you can use these stretches that you just showed us before you begin the body or your run, or you can incorporate them throughout your day in different ways.
You bet. And you
Um,
can do them anywhere. I did mine, as you saw, I did mine on a garage door. I've done it on a car, so wherever you can have freedom to move. You notice I used the driveway. I didn't get special and go to a track, because not everybody's going to get to a track. You need to know that these are user friendly wherever you are. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about if you want to start a running program. If you want to start a running program, there's a couple strategies you can use. One of them is what I call the 3-1 strategy. And that means you run 3 minutes, then you walk 1 minute, then you run 3 minutes, then you walk 1 minute. These can be adjusted. Like if you're already kind of running, but you want to get back into it, then do a 4-1 or a 5-1. You have to do a little math on that, you guys. But that is a great way to initiate your body into the concept of running. And if you're starting out, you don't want to go fast. You want to have it light and easy. And that's one of the hardest things that my husband Woody and I get our kids not to run too fast, because they can't build a sense of pace if they're breathing so hard. They're in anaerobic debt, we call it. So just those are a couple of strategies. Another thing, let's say you decided, okay, I want to see if I can run a mile today. Run that mile using the times, run 3, walk 1. And if you don't know how much a mile is, it's okay to go on a track and measure 4 laps around. That's perfectly fine. A lot of people have watches that will tell, like if you have an iPhone watch or an iWatch, that will measure your distance via GPS, so you can actually see how far you're going. But what I tell my beginners to do is to build very gradually. When you start running or even walking briskly, you want to go 2 days in a row. So let's say I want to start running on Monday. I'm going to run on Monday. I may go shorter on Tuesday, which is fine. And then Wednesday, I'm not. So it's 2 days on, 1 day off. And as you filter through the week, you won't find yourself running on the very same days every week. But that's a great way to get yourself in the habit. Anytime you learn a new skill, the way the brain works is if you do the new skill on day 1, then you do it again on day 2 within 48 hours or 24 of the new skill. Your brain allows your body to better do that skill. So if I've asked you to do skips and you're like, oh my God, I can't do skips, and so you feel klutzy, that's okay. Just do them again the next day and you'll find, oh my goodness, it's so much better. That's just the way our brain works. So that's why I like the 2 days on and the 1 day off. Also, be careful when you increase. let's say during, I'm just going to use even numbers because it's easier. I don't do math. Let's say I run my 4 days over the 7-day period, and I run 4 miles. Okay, 1 mile each day. You don't want to have the same miles each day. I like to alternate, one day a little longer, one day a little shorter. But the point is, the next week, you're not going to go to 8 miles. That's just not healthy. You're maybe going to do 1 mile more. So if I did 4 miles last week, I might do 5 miles this week. Then the next week, I might go to 6. Now that's 3 weeks. What you want to do after a 3-week period is drop back and go gently. Like maybe do that 5 mile you did the week before. And then the next week you build up. So it's a 3-week build. First, let's say 5 miles, 6 miles, 6.5 miles, back to 6. Then the next one is 7. Does that make sense to you? Give me a 1 if that seems to make sense to you in the chat, because we want to build you up gently. We want to make sure that you're getting the concepts here. Yes, Deb, 10%. 10% a week is what they're saying. Deb Asmus just asked me, how much should you increase per week? No more than 10%. Yeah. Excellent question.
And that was
Thank you.
one of the things that, I wanted to talk about too, Lorraine. I like to do races because it gives me something to look forward to. It gives me a goal. It gives me something to build up to. So then what I like to do is I kind of make a plan for myself for the year. It's kind of a nice thing. You could do it at the beginning of a season or beginning of the year. You can kind of think, okay, I want to do a 5K in June, or I want to do the turkey trot, or whatever it is that you want to do, right? Or if you want to do something longer distance, you kind of look for, if you're into races, some people like to be with other people to do their races. I also run with another person. She likes to do a half marathon, but she doesn't like to run with other people. So she sets a date for herself that is her race date, and she's just racing by herself. It could be the day when other people are racing like a bigger race. So people do it different ways, but it's kind of like you have something in mind that you're training up for. So a lot of people like to do that for accountability purposes too. And then what I like to do is then you back out from that point. You kind of like, that's the end point, right? And then you have to think about how many weeks. So I'm going to be doing a marathon in November. That's 26 weeks away. I'm not going to really start training for that marathon until, like, I'm going to be physically active and I'm going to be running and doing things because I'm just an active person. But my official like training schedule doesn't start until like 18 weeks out from the marathon. Or if it's a 5K, you could say, maybe you want to do in 6 weeks or 8 weeks to build up to it. So some people like to do things and they go all out trying to do the 3 miles and they never walked 400 meters. Like, don't do that. You can build up to it, give yourself time to do it. So kind of plan it out. I also like to have schedules. So like with anything, with any type of exercise, like if you schedule it, you're more likely to do it. So think about when you're planning out your week, well, what day can I do my exercise? And on how long am I going to do it for? And what am I going to do? And what time of day am I going to do it? I'm a morning exercise person. I like to work out in the morning because I like to do it before my day really gets into started, because the longer the day goes on, the more likely I am to say no, I'm not doing it. Or I get tired or something comes in and takes a priority of it. So I kind of like to get mine done at the beginning of the day, but some people like to do theirs at the end of the day. They like to attach that habit to, let's say, I kind of coach my clients, like they can't do it in the mornings. I'm like, right when you finish with work, before you even get in your car, like I have some clients who work at a university. I'm like, before you get home and do your commute, can you put on your shoes? Because sometimes the habit is just putting on your tennis shoes. Then once you put on your tennis shoes, you just go to the track. We're in a place where we have nice weather right now, maybe, a little bit nicer weather. You have longer days. It's like taking advantage of those times. So trying to get those things to, trying to put some systems around like your workout. And how many miles you might want to have it. Like I know a lot of people who have goals for, I'm going to do, trying to get to 20 miles over a certain period, a quarter or a month or a week or whatever it is. But they have kind of like a goal that they're shooting for. So those kinds of things work for a lot of people. How many miles per week? And how do you build accountability into your program? So one way is, maybe a race, or it could be a friend that you meet with. Like I have I meet with different people, have some ladies I meet, we meet at 5:15 in the morning. It's like I need some buddies because probably would not be out running at 5:15 if I didn't have somebody I knew I was meeting there. Or it could be, for me, I want my kids to be runners. And after this, I got a little bit of daylight left. My daughter wants to run with me. So I'm also like I'm doing the 75 hard challenge. That means I got to do two workouts a day. So that gets me, I'm not necessarily an evening workout person, but sometimes I have to do an evening workout in order to get the two in per day. So like a challenge. So these are different ways that you can kind of build in some accountability. One of the things that we wanted to talk about too was, especially if you're doing long distance, if you're one of those long distance type of people. So this is tips that Lorraine and Deb gave me when I was training for my marathon. I was novice marathoner. They were like, you can't just do the cardio. You have to do some strength training. You have to do some weight bearing exercise. You have to do stretching, and you probably should do some massage. So, like I just wanted to kind of, Lorraine, if you could talk a little bit about cross training because you do so many different sports.
Well, here's something I want to say. Some of the points that Sheranda has made is what I'm hearing is make a goal. That goal can be a race. That goal can be a distance. My goals are pretty lofty right now, but that goal is what's going to drive you forward. It's going to keep you going. And also, something that I've done really since I started running in graduate school in 1978 as a stress reliever is I kept a log. I kept a log of my run. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be one of those little steno notepads, and you go the date, and then I did this mileage and this time. That's it. You can maybe say how you feel. It doesn't have to be a big deal, but that's a very important thing to do. Keep yourself accountable. It's kind of fun. I've gone over some of my log books from 20, 30 years ago. I've been at this gig a long time. And it's been fun to see how I felt and what I did and stuff like that. So the goal is important, keeping in some kind of log just for you. And what's really neat is Sheranda, if she keeps a log, she'll put in her log her race times. And what'll be kind of fun for her is when she goes back and, she might want to beat those race times. Every course is different, so you may not always get to do that if a course is exceedingly difficult, but it's just kind of fun to beat those times. I got into triathlon because of a knee injury, as I told you before. And one of the things that all coaches say to runners is you must cross train. The reason for that is because of the same wear and tear on your body. It's like getting, that syndrome. If you're typing, you get all swollen up. And well, if you're just doing the same thing all the time, your body's going to become very linear. And some people, one person in the chat said, my hips are always so tight. I'll give you a hip stretch before we abandon our night tonight. But if you do other activities, it's good for your brain. It's good for your body. So the things I do is I happen to love cycling. So I cycle, I swim, I run, and I practice yoga. And those seem to keep, I don't lift probably as much as I could, but honestly, yoga at my very advanced age, yoga has been very good for me for core work, the body, the torso, the core, and weight bearing with all the asanas that we do. So that, find something else that you enjoy to do. I have good friends that are outstanding runners that don't even run in the winter. They just cross country ski. That's what they do. That's their cross training, and they might swim in the winter inside. But cross training is a huge way to prevent injury. It's good for the brain, and it keeps you from getting bored. Is there anything else you want me to cover before we go into the cool down, Sheranda?
No, you can go ahead.
Cooling down is really, really important. What it is, it's an opportunity for your body to bring the heart rate down. When I'm in the water and I've swum a hard workout, pardon me? Can you hear me? I'm not muted.
You're fine.
You're okay, good. You want to bring your heart rate down gently. So a lot of times what I'll do when I'm done swimming hard is I'll do an easy 50. And that means very, very slow stroke of my choice, usually breaststroke, because that's really nice and sweet, and do that for 50 meters. If I get out of that pool with my heart rate all up, that's just not good for it. It needs to be brought down. If I'm on the track and I've run hard on the track, then what I will do in my cross country my team will do is they will do a very, very easy jog. It could be a quarter mile or a half mile jog, but something to bring the heart rate down that is really important. Exercise or stretching. After you've done your cool down, you want to stretch because you're still warm. Your body muscles are still supple, so you want to stretch. One of my friends on the page asked about tight hips. So I'm actually going to take you for a little walk over here and show you a wonderful little stretch that will help tight hips. It's a twist. Deb will be very familiar with it. But I'm going to put what you do for the twist is you're going to put one knee up against your leg there. The other knee is going to come down around. It's called a pretzel. Let's see if I can show it to you. It's called a pretzel stretch. And what you do, you stretch. If my right knee is up, I stretch my opposite arm. And I feel the stretch in my entire rib cage. Those are awesome for opening the hips. And I know Debbie should do a hip opener yoga class because there's so much more. And then if you do it on one side, you do the same thing on the other side. Another one is something called figure 4. I don't know if I can do this or not, but I'm going to try. Figure 4, you lay on your back and you have one leg over the knee and you grab the shin and press against the bent thigh. As you can see, I'm pressing against the thigh, and that opens up your hips. And those of you that said, hey, I've got back problems, I've got hip problems, I understand back problems. I broke my back in a serious car accident when I was married 3 whole months. So I get it. I understand back stuff. And if you want to contact me or Sheranda personally and ask some of these exercises, I'm happy to do it. Debbie also knows a lot about yoga, yoga exercises that can open those areas of the body. So,
And I just want to mention too, so Debbie put this in the chat, but in our Health and Harmony group, so Debbie has been offering yoga classes for us every Thursday night. We're missing tonight because she has her son in town, but she has a lot of videos in there. And I actually I've been doing the trainings live, and I've learned a lot stretches. And then like I remember them, I do them on my own. So there's some great stretching exercises in that group. If you're not a part of it, then we can add you to it. But if you are a part of it, the recordings are in there. So I encourage you to take a look at them and learn some stretches. And even this video we'll put into that group so you can go back to them and see those stretches. Now, Lorraine, I think one of the things we wanted to talk about a little bit is hydration, and then I can talk a little bit about nutrition, and we can open up for questions. I'll stop recording when it's time for questions, but you can also keep putting questions in the chat. But do you want to talk a little bit about hydration, and then I'll talk about nutrition? I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Excellent. Okay, what you want it with hydration. I have learned in our program with Optavia how important hydration is. And it's important for your organs, it's important for your muscles, it's important for your skin. It's really a good thing. And so one of the things I do daily hydration is I eat every 2.5 to 3 hours. And I always have a glass like this. It's wonderful. It keeps the water cold. I'll drink that with my meal, my mini meal, every 2.5 to 3 hours. Now, when I'm running or I'm on the bike, especially when I'm on the bike, I will actually put a timer on my watch. And if you have the iWatch, you can do this. You can say just have the timer go off at every 5 minutes, and that's your drink break. So when I'm on the bike, and because in the heat of the moment, oftentimes I will forget to hydrate, especially when it's cold. So when I get that little buzz or beep on my watch, I immediately hydrate, and that's really helped keep me from being dehydrated. Also, if I'm going out on a run, generally, if I run a 30-minute run, I don't need to carry water. But if I'm running 45 minutes to an hour, I will carry a water belt. And I, again, will sip every several minutes or so. It's just pivotal to your health to stay hydrated. Did you want to add more to that, Sheranda? I mean, there's so
The
much.
only thing I add to that is, after you work out, and what I've been doing
Yes.
lately is I started doing this in July. This I use our active amino acids. I put a little scoop in my water bottle. Sometimes I'll take this with me, put it in my little fanny pack, and then I have like a 16-ounce thing of water. I add my essential amino acids. It helps me with muscle recovery. It also helps to protect my muscle and helps my body to, because we lose muscle as we age. I also find, like, if I'm doing certain like if I'm doing hit workouts, or if I'm doing like really intensive cardio, strength and cardio, I might even have in the middle class, and I just kind of guzzle it. You have to drink it pretty quickly, but I do use these for the hydration. I say, if I'm doing really long runs, right, like 15 miles, you get to that point where if you're training for something, you might be up 10 plus miles. You might need some kind of, like, electrolyte, so Gatorade, or there are different ways. I know you can talk a little bit about different ways that you can get your electrolytes, and just kind of maybe being careful with that. I can try to get the zero sugar ones if I can, but if I need it and it's available, I'm drinking what's there. But
Well,
that really replenishes.
I use a wonderful product called Nuun, N-U-U-N, and it's electrolyte based, and they've got different ones. You can have one for just rehydration, one for sport. They even have an endurance powder that I use when I'm out more than an hour and a half. And when I'm done, I like to have some kind of recovery drink. Optavia does have, for those of us that have reached my mouth is off, reached our weight goals, and we are in optimum living. We use a whey powder protein mix that we have for Optavia. She happens to be showing it to you right there. I also have one that that I use in the Nuun program as well. So both of them are good. They actually the cheapest way, which is not. Some people may disagree, but you're just having chocolate milk. That's the poor man's way of getting getting some recovery. But I think they've done so much more with science that you don't have to go that route, that you can actually use what's out there with the science developed. Yeah.
The only thing other I'll add about nutrition, right? So, we teach people to eat every 2.5, 3 hours. So I practice that. That is a habit for me. I typically will have 6 meals a day. Nutrition is very important. That I do not use my running as an excuse to eat badly. Let me just, like, say that again. Like, I don't use my running as an excuse to eat badly. My running is a part of my health and wellness routine. Nutrition is also very important. So I don't go for a 15-mile run and then say like, "Oh, now I can eat whatever I want to eat." Or, and also, the night before, like you have to have a lot of discipline. Like it's important to get good sleep. Um, and so you can get up early and do the things that you need to do, the hydration, the nutrition. And I typically will kind of stay away from like pastries, sugary things. I still keep a nice, like, reduced calorie diet. I kind of follow what one of our plans called the 4-2-in-1 plan, where I'm eating two lean and greens, eating lean proteins, I'm eating low glycemic vegetables, and then I'm supplementing with either I may use some of the bars, and even if I go on a run, I'll put one of these in my fanny pack, especially if I'm doing a long run, like if I'm running 10 miles, I probably will eat one of these. They're really easy to eat. And or different things. I'm still trying to eat every 2.5, 3 hours. Most of them are small meals, 4 small meals. I often supplement with some of the products that we have, or eating lean and greens. But I'm not doing like, I'm just kind of really focused on my nutrition too, which is a key component. And I think that if there's anything else that you want to share, oh, I just wanted to mention, these little gadgets, are good. Garmin's, Apple Watches, all kinds of things, like they're great for tracking. It makes me feel accomplished, like I've accomplished something when I can see I can see how many miles, how fast I was, all of that stuff. It's just kind of like a nice thing to have. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to share, Lorraine, and then we could open it up for questions.
I think perhaps we should open it up. If there are any questions, they can just come off mute and ask, because we said about 45 minutes. So